Renee, you have founded the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. What was your occupation before founding the sanctuary? Are there any capabilities that were useful in your previous occupations that you have put in good use in your work for the sanctuary?
Yes, my former occupation has been as an entrepreneur. I've owned and operated several different businesses. I'll be 59 years old next month. So in my early career, I was a singer, songwriter, musician, performer. So I did a lot of performing on the road. That culminated into me becoming a producer. I wrote my own curriculums for stage and vocal performance. I had my own school for performers. And then I started promoting and producing shows and special events. Then I started directing shows. So it became first I started doing the performing, and then I started, when I got older, I started creating the curriculums to help others become good at being on the stage. And then from there, after a while of that, I always was a singer. I always loved to promote a talent and what have you. And then from there, I went on to even build a medical spa. In the background of all that, always loved yoga therapy. I got my certification in yoga. It was always very good for me personally. So I've always, managed to take what I love to do and create income with what I love to do. It was never hard for me. I had a yoga studio. I built the medical spa with 13 doctors. And then after a few years of all that, some things went south, and, it was like, okay, why don't you get your real estate license? So I got my real estate license, got into real estate. Long story short of all this is, as an entrepreneur, I've got a skill set that is now being put to use in animal rights and what I'm doing at the sanctuary that I never thought I would ever use for something so passionate to my heart. Every single skill, all of it, is being used in a way that I never dreamed. So yeah, it's all been good, every bit of it, from being able to get on stage, to being able to produce events, to being able to, do social media, promote, market, to being able to have that mind of the healer, to really take all that into my love for the animals and their well-being. And I look at things holistically a lot of times, medically too, of course, but also I always have the holistic way I look at it. And then, to become a realtor, it's just that whole academic, always dealing with forms, always dealing with government forms and this and that. So it's all been put together and works. It's like I had my own university for this.
No, maybe one day you can start one to educate
Yeah, there
people.
you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. There you go.
Renee, when was the first time you heard the term vegan? How long ago?
I probably heard that term for the first time when I was in my yoga studies, and certainly vegetarian. I was vegetarian for a while, and but the word vegan, I'm sure, was back then, and I always thought it was something strange.
And when did you find out that it is something that, nice, normal people do?
Well, when I moved to the ranch here, my husband and I remarried, and I moved out here. I started, falling in love with the cows here. And when I was doing the research on slaughter and what happened to the animals after they left here, veganism started coming up, and I started looking up veganism, and it's amazing just how much we're kept from knowing the truth about even the word vegan. It should have been something we learned in school. We should be given choices in school.
Yeah.
It's kept from us.
Yeah.
Unless we have family. Yeah. Unless we have family that teaches it. It's not something we generally learn.
Yes. We are insulated from this term. I have lived in a country that, in the UK for many years, and I have never, I never, fell on this word. It was a shame.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. A shame.
So how long did this research last? How long did you live in the ranch before you decided you should go vegan? What was the tipping point?
Well, I married my husband in 2010, the second time, and he had acquired the ranch from the time we had divorced to the time we remarried. And so when I moved here, he was still working for Dow Chemical. This was a retirement investment. It was a second income. It wasn't the first income. It was a second income. And so, and he was using it as a way to, when he retired from Dow, to have more income. So he would supplement his 401k, his check he got every month. And so that was his master plan. And so when I moved here, it wasn't too long before his master plan became not so much a plan anymore. It went out the window because I started falling in love with the animals. And being from Texas, I always loved, animals, but I never got the idea that I could eat one animal and love another. It never crossed my mind until I moved here. And what made me start looking was my husband always wanted me to help him, like open fences. He wanted me to help him, round up the cows, move them from one pasture to the next. And I never wanted to help with any of that because I was from the city and I didn't have a desire to do ranching at all, ever. I had no desire to be involved in that. And when he told me about this, he told me about these two calves that didn't have a mama. I bought two of them because they didn't have a mama, and to bottle feed them. One we called Bobo and one we called Rowdy Girl. Bobo died. She had a very bad start. She had problems from the very beginning. Bobo died very young. And Rowdy Girl just thrived. I fed her twice a day. She loved, my connection with her. Every time she saw me, she'd run. And so Rowdy Girl became my vegan activist. Rowdy Girl was the one that started to show me all the other cows. And she did it very innocently. She did it because I was feeding her. Then I started watching the other mothers feeding their children. I never watched before. I never even noticed, really. I mean, I knew they were out there, but I certainly wasn't going to think about it. So I guess that's when I started really thinking about it, was early on. And the tipping point took me 6 years. It took me 6 years of seeing the babies going to the sale barn every 6 months. It took me 6 years of, trying to live with loyalty to being a rancher's wife. And then when I would leave that idea and go out into the field with Rowdy Girl, I would slide down a rabbit hole where all possibilities existed. Like in Alice in Wonderland, if you drink one pill, you get small. If you drink one pill, you get big, or take one pill. I would swallow the pill in my mind, where made me go down a hole, and I could see that everybody was perfect, that everybody deserved to live. But then I'd have to crawl out of there and take another pill so I could be a rancher's wife. And so I was living, my insides weren't matching my outsides. It became a real conflict for me. And it took me almost losing my mind at the end of the day to say I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. were there any persons that helped you and inspired you to make the leap to founding the sanctuary? Did you?
Yeah, there is. There's, before I started the sanctuary, obviously, just to kind of backtrack to that other question, because I started losing my mind with it all. And finally, I drew the line in the sand. I had gone vegan in October of 2014. And December of 2014 is when I talked to Howard Lyman. Howard Lyman was a big instrumental figure with me making the right decision, that I really felt I was doing the right thing. He was somebody that I knew I could talk to that would understand what I was going through more than anybody probably in the world.
Yeah.
And so he's been instrumental. Kip Anderson with Cowspiracy, another very instrumental figure. He was somebody I was talking to. He gave me a lot of encouragement, a lot of inspiration to raise the money. It took so many people out there to help us, and he gave me the encouragement and said, you can do this. And so Kip Anderson, Gene Bauer in the Sanctuary Farm Sanctuary, I was looking to that sanctuary because they've been around the longest. And so I sought out people like this to give me guidance and direction in the beginning.
Yeah, very nice. Shall we change a bit the subject to some? You mentioned Cowspiracy. T. Colin Campbell said during our conversations in September that using up resources to create illness is not sustainable, and he wanted up to explain that. My question is, do you agree with that in general? And the most important thing is, do you think as a farmer or as a rancher, do you have any hints about the negative consequences of animal agriculture to the environment? Does a simple person working in the animal agriculture sector have any hints to understand that without consulting people who know and without reading books?
Well, I didn't even think about it until I watched Cowspiracy. Until I watched Cowspiracy, I never thought that a cow's poop mattered. I never thought about, oh, look at all that methane going up into the air and in our environment. I wonder how many cows in the world are making a lot of poop to destroy our planet. I never thought that, I never thought, well, I wonder how many gallons of water it takes to make a hamburger. Nobody ever taught you that in school. What I loved about the film Cowspiracy, when I did watch Cowspiracy, was that my mouth dropped open at every frame. And then I had to rewatch it and take my notes. And I would stop the video and I would write as fast as I could. Yeah. Almost makes me cry. It's as if for the first time I was seeing the devastation of our planet, how we are blindly being led to believe that destruction is normal, that planetary destruction is normal, that we don't even know we're destroying the planet because we're so normalized and conditioned to believe that animal agriculture is not only right, but good for us and the animals.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. What, out of curiosity, what happens to the poop in a farm?
In a farm or a sanctuary?
In a farm. I mean, I'm working on these indications now that something might be detrimental to the environment. Does all the poop is used in a ranch or in a farm? Do you have to throw it somewhere? Do you have to pollute some water? I don't know.
No, in a regular farm, I mean, no. Cows poop and that's that. Well, we may drag it. Tommy has a dragger that he puts on his tractor, and And when it gets too much, he would drag it so that it would mix in with the soil, but nothing's done with it.
Yeah, because this is not an intensive operation. I guess you can see that in intensive operations, that it is too much that you don't know what to do with it. Maybe.
Yeah, now but you have to have a lot of land. That's what I mean. So now if you're having if it's a feedlot,
yeah,
where animals are condensed to a very small space,
yeah,
then yes, you must, get rid of it, because and it's all going to go back into the environment.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're making fertilizer, and even still it's going back into the environment. That's what the whole thing about veganic gardening, when you think about veganic gardening,
yes,
the reason why they get away from the cow manure, the composites of the soil in veganic gardening, is because they don't want to continue to use the waste of the animal, because it's destroying our planet.
Yeah. We don't have veganic gardening in Greece as well, as of now, but I hope we will have soon. I will let you know.
Yeah.
Renee, what if half of the Texas ranchers turn vegan within 5 years from now? Can you imagine this scenario? Do you see ways that the same people could earn a decent life without participating in animal agriculture?
If half the ranchers in 5 years go vegan?
Yes. Do you feel they will have things to do? They can have a decent income without participating in animal agriculture?
Oh, I do believe they can. That's the reason we're developing, programs now. It's all in development, the rancher advocacy program. And I really thought about it before calling it that, because as former ranchers ourselves, we are advocates for not only the animals, but also people that are wanting to make this change. A lot of people are going to be just like my husband and I. My husband never liked killing animals. He did it because he thought it was the way it was always supposed to be. When he picked up the baton of ranching that his grandfather and his great-grandfather had done before him, he did it believing in his heart that he was doing the right thing, that he was being true to his values, his tradition. It was honorable that he did this. He was restoring his heritage, history. And so for half the people, if half the people like that go vegan, number one, they got to get through that stigma of believing that they're doing something right. They believe they're doing something really right and good and righteous. They got to get beyond that stigma. But once they do, a whole world opens. Because just like we have to go to the feed store and buy feed, when we go there, there's all these educational components about animal agriculture. You may walk up to the counter, and right beside you, there's a big old tub of pig ears that you can buy and give to your dogs to eat. The chewable pig ears, real pig ears. I know. Real ones. Like, you can tell by looking in that bucket, there's probably a couple of hundred pigs that were killed. Just, they don't miss anything. They put the ears in the jar, and they sell it to you so you can give them to your dogs to eat. That's disgusting. Now, but what I'm seeing is when I go to a feed store, all these things teach me to do animal agriculture, to use the animal, to exploit the animal, to eat the animal, to believe that that's right. What if we could create a system, and we can, I believe, where we're sitting around a table saying, okay, let's create feed stores. Let's create wonderful feed stores where we are supplying feed, we're supplying tractors, we're supplying implements, tools, whatever you might need to the community, but they're vegan in operation. So that when you walk in to buy the feed, a supposing rancher could just walk in and buy some feed. But instead of seeing pig ears at the counter, there's vegan literature. Instead of seeing a monitor on the wall about the latest FFA, Future Farmers of America, or 4-H event, there's a monitor with Cowspiracy playing. So you know, there's ways for ranchers to think about this big model, so that, and it starts with how we feed our animals, how we take care of the animals, the equipment we use to take care of the animals in the ground, the rock, the dirt, the soil. All of these things are needed. The grain, the oats, the corn, all of this is needed. So if we take that whole idea and we frame it around vegan farmers, there's so many ways to make money.
I'm very happy to hear that. I truly believe it. And I hope we will go there in less than 5 years.
Oh, it'd be awesome. I mean, it's not happening nowhere in the world. Nobody's doing that, but that's the reason we want to have these programs, is so that when ranchers do come talk to us, and they do talk to us on a regular basis, their families, their daughters, their sisters, their next door neighbors,
yeah,
they contact us, but it's very confidential. They don't want anybody to know right now. It would feel embarrassed if anybody knew, but they're calling me or messaging me because they know that they can talk to someone who used to do this without feeling judged.
Amazing. So they feel the social pressure of not showing their sentiments.
Can't do it. It's absolutely forbidden. That's why it took me 6 years. I was forbidden to have those feelings. I was told, Renee, you need to buck up, get strong. This is the way we do things. That's what they're all doing.
Oh my goodness. What about the future without animal agriculture at all? I mean, okay, you cannot have many sanctuaries, can you? Or the animals that will be in the sanctuaries will be very, very few compared to what we now have as productive animals. So,
right.
In effect, do you see that we're moving slowly towards a model of agriculture without animals?
Yes. And I think it's important to see what you can do with your soil.
Yeah.
To do studies. What's the best use of this soil right now to grow whatever types of plants or grains that you could grow on that same square footage that you would grow livestock, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It's important to know, because you could grow food for the community. You could grow food for the animals. You could maybe decide that you want to do mulching. Take all the trees that are just falling naturally. Like in our ranch, we have a whole section that's the forest. The trees fall naturally. You pick those trees up. You have mulching machines. You create mulch. Mm-hmm. There's ways to get very creative around how to use the land productively and economically for your particular environment.
That is great. Where do you see Rowdy Girl Sanctuary 10 years from now? Do you have a vision? Do you have something that you look up to and say, I want to be there in 10 years?
My vision for Rowdy Girl Sanctuary in 10 years?
Yes.
I'll be almost 70.
Yeah, that will be great.
Yeah, and my vision for Rowdy Girl Sanctuary is that we would create a model, and that's always in the back of my head, that we would create a model that other people that have like minds could tap into. They could copy the model, that it would be so successful that it would be easy for people to do instead of hard. That people could go, oh, you've made this so easy for us. We've got, all the marketing's done, all the social media, all the vendors, all of it, the marketing, the strategies, everything's created for the next person that wants to do this, whether they're a former rancher or even if there's somebody that's just interested in buying a lot of land and wants to have a sanctuary. They could take that same idea, Rowdy Girl Sanctuary, have Rowdy Girl Greece, a Rowdy Girl Sanctuary in Greece. How's that? Or a Rowdy Girl Sanctuary in Montana or Idaho. You know,
Yes.
I see that other sanctuary. You know, that's my vision for Rowdy Girl, is that we have many babies.
That will be great.
The Rowdy Girl Sanctuary has many babies for the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, it is very very interesting and amazing that I can see a new sector being born, and this new sector, the sector of non-animal agriculture, without animals, not a non-animal agriculture next to animal agriculture or working complementary, like completely disassociated from the animal agriculture sector, is so it has so many possibilities for a lot of occupations, for a lot of jobs, in education, in organization, in management. I mean, I feel it is the beginning of a new sector, and I feel you are very lucky to be living that. You are living this, the beginning of a new sector. That's my feeling. Yeah.
I do believe that. It's interesting when you're in the story of something like this and you're on the outside looking in, because it's as if there was a projector way up here and there's something already that knows the whole script. They know everything. Something is coming through me, and it's like I get to see it as it goes, but I get to have some idea about the future.
Yes.
Not everything, some idea.
Yes. Also, in Texas, I think there is a quite strong movement of healthy lifestyle. People like doctors and medical centers. I see a lot of movement there. I think Garth Davis is in Texas. Meet Your Future are in Texas. Some doctors, I have seen some initiatives called Get Healthy This Texas. Have you noticed those? There is a lot is moving in parallel, in a complementary way.
Yeah.
Is this true? Do you feel that?
Oh yeah, definitely. And becoming a sanctuary, when there was nothing like that ever here, has made everything magnetized to this. It's as if we become a magnet for all of that. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know there was so many vegan minds out there, even that live next door or next little town over or this town over. If we would have never gone vegan, I would have not known who these people are. And you take that into the next stretch, from one city to the next, one county to the next. In Texas, we're going to be doing, vegan tours, Texas vegan tours, with where we go from one city to the next, celebrating the vegan culture and putting that out there in social media, because it's happening, and the sanctuary has become a rallying point for all of this. And it's very, very interesting. People ask me all the time, how are you doing this in the middle of Texas? I'm like, Texas is ready. It's like, Texas is so ready for this. Yeah, they are really.
Amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. Here, instead of celebrating sardines and, other animals, celebrate plant-based food and veganism. I mean, what better could there be than that?
And there's a great doctor in Houston. His name is Dr. Garth Davis.
Yeah.
And he has a book called
Proteinaholic.
Proteinaholic. He's been to the sanctuary a couple of times. He was a speaker here last year.
Mm-hmm.
But right in Houston, and there's another plant-based, like Center Hospital. I'm trying to think of the name. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But there is one in Houston. There's a lot of vegan restaurants in Houston. More and more every day.
Yeah. This gives me so much optimism for for our planet and for animals and for our kids and for every person in the world. You know, I left my most important question for the end. I would like you to tell us about the challenges, the past ones and the current ones that you face from running the sanctuary. And most importantly, I want you to tell me about the rewards from your current, let's say, employment, and compare these rewards to what you felt you have taken from your previous employment. It's a big question. We can start from the challenges and the obstacles and difficulties, and then go to the rewards.
Well, the challenges, the biggest challenges, present and past, is that what you're asking? Yeah.
Yes.
I guess the past challenges, I'll start there.
Yeah.
The past challenges were, number one, just getting the sanctuary to happen, getting the nonprofit, because we're a nonprofit. You know, we're not, we're geared that way as a 501c3. So the biggest challenge was getting that, and then to set up all of the structure for the organization. And another, you know, challenge has been, you know, in every movement that is changing the world, and I believe Rowdy Girl Sanctuary is doing that because of people like you that ask us to show up on programs like this.
Thank you.
The way that I know that we're changing the world is through people like you, your eyes, your heart, your face, your soul. When we're asked to be places that speak about our story, you know, I know that we're changing the world because of what's reflected back at me, not because I think I'm changing the world, right? So a big challenge has been that there's people that don't want us to do that. There's people that actually are very vicious and they don't want to see that happen. And so that's been a big challenge, going up in spite of that, to be strong, to be sure-footed, to know that we, all greatness has opposition. All greatness. I mean, if you look at Mother Teresa or Jesus Christ or the Buddha or whatever, there was always talk of opposition, always. And that opposition has fueled me, honestly, to really know who we are. The biggest challenge has been, in the past, has been allowing opposition to not destroy me, but to fuel me on. You know, that's huge. Presently, you know, the baby cows that have been born here, you know, used to, when we had babies here, it was because we sold them. We sold the baby calves to become in the meat industry. They were slaughtered or they were sold to be slaves on another ranch. So our entire operation was built around the more babies you have, the more money you make.
Yeah.
It was slavery, you know, and so now the biggest challenge presently is we are stopping that entire mechanism of that's happening in our animals, from our animals' fertility capabilities. You know, you have to castrate the babies that are born. And in the beginning, there was a problem because the cows were older when I first bought the cows, and the ones that would have been slaughtered have had to have a procedure they call Burdizo, B-U-R-D like dog, I-Z like zebra, Z-O, Burdizo. And that is a form of instrument. That's an instrument that's used to clamp off the blood supply and the nerve supply to the male, to the bull, so that they don't, that they're rendered sterile. Okay?
Yep.
But what I didn't know was that this procedure took months to completely happen. And I didn't know that there was, from my research, a 30% fail rate. And so the reason I'm telling you this is because we had more babies when we thought we weren't going to have babies. And because of that. And so those particular animals are on another completely different pasture about 10 minutes from here. Because if they're in the same pasture, they break out and get in with the animals, you know. And so for those animals that we have a question about, they have to be surgically operated on. They got to be put to sleep, because the cord that supplies the blood and the nerves is now much bigger than it is than if it was a little baby. And so you can't just do a simple castration. There has to be a surgery. This is a big challenge for us. I don't even want to do it. I know we have to, but they're in another pasture right now. They're by themselves. They're not hurting, you know, anybody over there or getting anybody pregnant over there. But then what happened was, when we had the great big flood, we had a big challenge when we had the flood here in June. It was a 100-year flood event. We had never seen anything like it here. And so we had to evacuate all of our animals. And we didn't have the luxury of putting them in separate pastures. They had to all go in one pasture during the flood. And so we know that during that time, a big challenge for us is that we knew that we were subjecting our cows to getting pregnant. But it was either that or kill cows. It was either that, let them drown, or kill them because they're male. You know, we didn't do that, obviously. So we just let nature take its course. And so we are now in the process of, you know, getting all that changed. And the beautiful side of that picture is that the Rowdy Girl herd, the original herd, that's the only one there will ever be. Their offspring now will never go to slaughter. The mothers of these children that they have now will never be afraid of when the red trailer is going to come and take them to the slaughterhouse or to the sale barn. They will never be afraid of that. So we're getting to be able to watch an entire family stay put together. And yeah, and so when they're gone, they're gone. When the original herd is gone, it's gone, you know. And your other question for that?
Can you compare your life before the sanctuary and with the sanctuary? What your job satisfaction? Is it bigger now, or was it, I mean, compared to before? What do you think?
Life before the sanctuary, you know, it's as if I am living a life I never knew I'd live. I never grew up to think, when I grow up, you know, I want to be the founder of the first vegan farm sanctuary in Texas, the United States, and quite possibly the world, that used to be a former cattle ranch. I never said that's what I want to do. In fact, I want to go to school and I want to get an assessment. And I wonder if on that assessment, there's a place that's going to say, you are perfectly suited to start the first ever, you know, former beef cattle ranch. I doubt it, you know. So, yeah, I said before the sanctuary, and now it's like, who knew? Who knew that I would be living slap dab in the middle of a miracle that could be actually changing, you know, the way we look at animals in our agriculture sector? Who knew that? You know, so, you know, and again, I want to reiterate, I've got to reiterate, I want to make sure we are a nonprofit, and we personally don't make a living. That doesn't mean that in the future there won't be enough money. We won't be solid enough for there to be salaries. But right now, there's not. But the possibilities for others to make an income at this, you know, whether it be through feed stores, selling, you know, whatever type of equipment a student might need, are vast.
This is great. So I have the feeling that you enjoy your life more now than before. Is that true?
I enjoy, yeah, I can say that's two parts.
Yep.
Some days I'm wondering, what the heck have I done? Some days, but the thing is, even though I may think that some days, I'm so fueled by my passion for these animals and for the future. You know, that question It's not about my enjoyment today.
It's about fulfillment.
It's about what's right.
Uh-huh.
It's about what's ethically right.
Yep.
Yeah, fulfillment, even that, what really is behind my motives is doing what's ethically right by my choices, not by my tradition or culture. Once I saw the truth, I was morally bound and ethically charged to put one foot in front of the other and be the kind of person that I know I need to be to fulfill this, than it is for me to do something, you know, or do this, do that. It's about being the kind of person that I need to be in order for this to happen. It's not easy. It's not for everybody. I certainly don't want to put it out there that this would be the kind of, it's not for everybody. It takes a very strong constitution, one that I didn't even know I possessed.
This is great. And I think it is very inspiring it will be very inspiring to my students. And I would like to close this discussion with you telling them from your heart something like, you know, that expresses your, you know, your heart, your idea for the future, your hopes, and that they can take it and work on it, and then maybe put one foot in front of the other and do something. Can you please?
Yeah, sure. My hope for the future is that there would be young minds and hearts in this room that would be willing to feel instead of think. For a minute, just feel in here if it's morally right to eat children and their mothers, to eat children. Is it morally right to take little baby chicks and throw them into a macerator and rip them to shreds just because they're male and they can't lay eggs and be a commodity? Is it morally right? Take a minute to feel where we're going to be 50 years from now on our planet if we continue to raise animals for food, for pleasure, for clothing, for furniture, for experimentation. Is that morally right? Can we, for a minute, get behind our heart, our soul, our purpose for being a human on this planet right now and do the right thing because it's right?
Thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart about that, about the whole conversation. Okay, thank you, Tom. So, please tell us, how long does it take to set up a ranch, a beef cattle ranch or a dairy ranch, and how long might it take to shut down an operation? I need this info to discuss with my students about the sectors.
It is very hard to set up a cattle ranch. I learned that from experience because when I started ranching here on the 96 acres, I found out you didn't make any money if you bought your own hay. Every winter I had to buy hay, and that would negate all profits. So I started making my own hay. Well, that took about a $70,000 investment to buy the tractors, the equipment, the baler, the rake, the cutter, the trailers that you needed to haul it. And so that's what I'm saying. It takes a long time to get into it to be profitable. To get out of it, all it takes is I'm selling out. And you could get out of it very easily, but to start a sanctuary is not easy. The way we got out of it was hard, and it's still being hard. But if I would have just sold the cows and taken the money and then sold the equipment, it would have been very easy. I could have done it in a couple of weeks. But to acquire the land and be able to make the hay and the fences that are necessary and the corrals and all that, it's very, very hard. In fact, ranchers don't make a lot of money unless they have a lot of land that's already paid for.
Okay. So, it's more than a year. What I can keep it is that it is more than a year to enter this sector.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, to start a ranch, you have to go and buy your initial stock. You have to make sure your fences are good, your water systems are good,
right.
your corrals, everything. It's tough, and to get out of it would be just like instant almost.
If everybody becomes vegan, how are you going to find somebody to buy you when you want to get out?
Well, a lot of people have gotten out of the business and become vegan, but they didn't do what we did. I know one person in particular that's very famous that wrote books and everything. They had over 20,000 cows. There's no way that you can save 20,000 cows at this point in our history. They sold the cows and got out of the business and became vegan. And on the other hand, what Renee did kind of forced me to do what I did. She told me she was going to follow me to the sale yard. She was going to buy them back with her credit card. She was going to go to jail and make me so embarrassed. And so I said, damn it, I'm just going to get out of the business. And she goes, well, if you're going to get out of the business, why don't you just sell them to me? And I said, that's stupid. They do that. They make sanctuaries in California and New York. They don't do that in Texas. And so I thought, okay, yeah, you can buy my cows for a cheap price. And I figured in a week or two, she'd come to her senses and realize that she couldn't get any money. And we go back to whatever we were going to, do. And within a week, she had raised some money, and I couldn't go back on my word. So then I started having to think about it. And since my dad had died when he was 62 of a heart attack, that was my first initial step into being a vegan. I decided, well, I'm not that healthy. I know I could improve my health. And so I started eating like she was eating, and it just was a process for me. And I never liked to, see animals go down a slaughter line. And I knew that when I dropped my calves off at the sale barn, that's what would happen to them. But when I realized I didn't have to eat meat to survive, nobody has to eat meat to survive in this day and age. It may have been different 100 years ago. In the wintertime, they couldn't grow crops, et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm still changing.
Yeah, it's a process, yes. Once you take the decision to go vegan, it's a process. But it is an eye-opening process and a way-opening process. I mean, you find out so many things are important that important to the planet, to your kids, to your health, that before you took the decision to go vegan, you just ignored them. So everything, is a part of a total, and veganism for me is, the key to open this big new world. This is how I see it.
It is. It's opened up. We were just talking about this earlier. Going vegan it changed my political views. It changed my views on so many things that I used to think different than going vegan now. It's all different. It's opened me up to see compassion for everyone.
Yes.
It's true. That's one of the biggest valuable things that's happened, is that going vegan has caused me to see everyone equal. We used to have the deer heads on the wall.
Oh.
And now when I see deer heads on the wall, I see people's heads on the wall.
Yes.
As if it's a person.
Yes.
Because it is to me.
Yes.
It should change everything. And see, the real dilemma for me is this: if that's true, then what if we stopped eating animals and we finally, on our planet, could achieve world peace?
What if? Yes. For sure, going vegan will alleviate many of our problems and many of the roots of war and conflict.
It changed everything for me. I mean,
Yeah.
it changed my entire way of viewing the world and people.
Any other questions for me?
Would you like one more, please?
Sure.
Yes. How do you feel? Like you have an everyday life with work. You're working every day in the sanctuary. Can you compare your job satisfaction from the sanctuary to that from your previous life as a rancher?
Well, when I was a rancher, like I said, I hated taking my calves and dropping them off at the sale barn. I never liked that. But, you know, I have to make money to pay the bills and to, you know, the taxes, everything. And so it's tough now because I don't have the income coming in that I used to. And I had retired right when Renee went vegan. And so my life has changed a whole lot. I had retired under the assumption I was going to be able to take it easy and go do my favorite hobby, which is metal detecting, looking for old things. And I haven't been getting to do that lately because we had a flood this year and that compounded the issues. There's just been a lot of work with the sanctuary, but as far as saving the animals, and feeding the animals and taking care of them, I love it.
Yeah.
Very satisfying.
That is great. That is so nice to hear. So, Renee King Sonnen and Tom Sonnen, thank you very, very much for being with us and for your insights and knowledge that you shared with my students. And I believe you gave us much inspiration and much to think and ponder on. And we hope to see you maybe next year live in class. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anastasia.